Hi there friends, this is Grace and welcome to the second process video of my latest 10 handmade cards, 1 homemade kit for June 2019. Let's go on to card number 6, and with this one I really just wanted to use the pattern papers that was left over, and I actually used this design for one of my previous flavors of the month kit where I used a bunch of square papers and then kind of make them into a diamond shape and then use that to create my background. So I'm just basically using the same design but using the papers that I have with this particular kit. Again, I am using the backside of a pattern paper that I don't care for anymore, and I actually used I believe that was a 1.5 inch or maybe 1 3/4 inch square punch from Creative Memories to punch out all of these squares that I have there. And again, I used a combination of the pattern papers from the Doodlebug paper pack and also for that basic gray paper that I wanted to just use up all of it. So again, like I said, this is pretty easy. I could do this with all of my scraps if I wanted to. I just love how this design just, you create your own background, but you use up a lot of different papers. So I like this idea, and this is going to be a pretty fast card for me. And I hope you guys are liking these kinds of videos. If you're new to my channel or new to this series, I usually create these 10 handmade cards every other month. It's just, it takes a lot of time for me to commit to this because, you have the creating the 10 cards, filming it, and then doing the voiceovers. And usually my voiceovers for these particular videos are between about 18 minutes to this one is 24 minutes, and so I can only do this every other month. But if you're new to my channel, have not heard of this, make sure that you check out the playlist that I have in my channel where it has all the 10 handmade card videos, and you will see all of the ones that I've done in the previous months for this year and also from last year. I think I've been doing this for maybe 2 years now, maybe 3, I can't quite remember, but I enjoy it. It helps me to create as many cards as I can in that particular month, and my favorite part is I use up my stash, which is, I feel like I did really well last year, but now I feel like I am not paying as much close attention to my stash as I used to, and but this one is like a little way of me to do that. So I decided that the sentiment needed to stand out a little bit more against that busy background, and so I pulled out my Darice nested oval die set and then pulled, I think this is like the middle size, and I just cut that out from not white paper. I know you can't see it in the video, but that's actually one of those dry embossed white papers that I have, and that's going to be the shape that would go in between the sentiment and also the busy background. And I'm going to add that with some foam adhesive, and then I also felt like the background was just a little bit kind of flat for me, so I will add some Nouveau drops, and I believe I used just simple white Nouveau drops and the back just to kind of have a little bit of something there on the back. And that will be my card number 6. Here I'm testing out my Nouveau drops, trying to see if it's really the one that I want, and I would go for it. And I love Nouveau drops because it's just so easy to add those little touches of dimension and dots to any paper crafting project. So on to card number 7. I would say this one was the simplest one that I've created. Maybe not, I don't know. But I remembered that I pulled out those silver papers. I haven't even used them, and this is my 7th card already, but I decided to pull them out, and I cut one in the silver and one in the kind of the bronze gold one. and I used my 2 embossing folders that also I pulled out for this particular kit that I haven't used in the last few cards, and so I'm pulling them out here, and I'm using my Cuttlebug, my trusty old Cuttlebug, and then I'm going to create those dimension onto the paper, and I really love how it turned out. It looks like one of those metal plates that you can use for like home decor or something like that. I really love the gray one too. That was really cool. And so I also have the dry embossed paper also there, and I'm just kind of figuring out how I'm going to put them. The yellow card base was kind of throwing me off, and so I decided to swap that off with a white one instead. And then I wanted the silver one to be just a circle, just so I can add it to the card like as a focal point or to house my sentiment. And so I'm going to cut that out, and I decided to cut that out actually in the center, top center of this piece, so that I can use that piece for another card, and you will see me actually use that in one of the cards here soon. So now that I cut that out, I just used my nested circle die from My Favorite Things. That is my favorite nesting circle. Well, that is my only nested circle die, but no, actually I have one more. I think I have one from Avery L, and it's a stitch one, but I love that nested die one. And so I decided that this dry embossed one was just kind of getting lost with all of the dimension that we have with the metal, or no, like the silvery and the gold metal looking papers. And so I decided to pull out the Mermaid Lagoon and then just kind of softly, I wasn't really pushing on this too hard, but just to rub it onto the top part, just so you can see some of that design on there. And it worked, and I like how that looked. But again, I just felt like this card was just kind of simple for me. I don't know. Let me know in the comment section below if you felt like this was simple, or in your point of view it wasn't that simple. I don't know, let me know. And so I'm pulling out, I decided to go with the craft card stock, or yeah, the craft background piece for my sentiments, and I'm just gonna cut out, I believe I said, or I picked You're the Best for this particular card. And then I'm just going to start adhering those things. If you are liking these videos, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, make sure that you leave it in the comment section below. If you are watching this, or if you're new to my channel and this is the first ever video that you've seen from me, I hope that you will go back to my channel and watch the other process videos that I have for these 10 handmade cards, 1 homemade kit. I have a playlist in my channel, so make sure that you check that out. And I hope that you are inspired by all of the cards that I create today. Not only inspired to make a card, but also to go into your stash and kind of make your own card kit, because I think it's a lot of fun. This is one of my favorite things that I do, because I get to play with my scrapbooking. I do get to play with my scrapbooking, but my first and foremost priority, I guess I should say, for my scrapbooking is to document the stories for my family. So sometimes the stories takes precedence over, artsy or play, as far as in that kind of canvas or in that kind of paper crafting. But with my cards, I just get to play, and I really enjoy it. And most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, I use up the items that I pull for this particular kit. So I love that piece of it as well. And so kind of to dress up this card, I decided to finish it off with some square brads. Square brads are not my thing anymore, and it annoyed me that they couldn't be straight, but they're on there, and so we're gonna go for that. And then this is my 8th card for this. This is again another simple one. I just wanted to use a pattern papers, and I think I remember seeing something like this on Pinterest where they had a whole block, maybe like a 2-inch block on top of the paper with just a bunch of strips. And I don't know if it was washi. I think it was washi that I saw on the inspiration on Pinterest. But instead of washi, I'm using 1/2-inch strips of pattern paper. So that's what I'm going to do here. Again, I used a white paper, which is the back side of a pattern paper, and then I put a ton of double-sided adhesive on there, and so that it'll be easy for me to just slap and stick those 1/2-inch strips. And then of course I'm going to trim off the edges, and then I will adhere that to the card base. So the card base is, I believe it's a gray cardstock, and I'm also using as another kind of card front, or the background piece for this particular card front. I'm using the dry embossed paper for this, and I'm trimming off the edges, and then I'm going to move those aside and then pull out my dry embossed and then my sentiment as well. And I noticed that paper again is feeling a little lost, and I'm going to pull, what did I pull for this one? I can't remember. Tea dye, that's what I pulled out. And so again, I'm softly just rubbing that ink on the top of the embossed element, just to kind of give it a little bit of something. I know you don't see it on video, but you will see it in the close-up where it has a little bit of dusting of brown onto the paper. And then I'm going to adhere that to the gray cardstock front, or the cardstock base rather, and then finish off my card by adding the sentiment. And I believe I used some foam adhesive to adhere that. And I'm also going to add some more of that square brad onto 2 different positions, or 2 different areas of my card, just to give it a little bit more dimension. And I have to tell you right off the bat that in the previous 10 handmade cards that I've made, I actually made more than 10. I would make like 13, sometimes 12 cards, because I would use up the leftovers. However, with this one, I just decided to go with 10. Again, I am learning about myself as a card maker that I am not, like, masculine cards are not my thing. It's just not. And so I think by number 9 or by number 10 card with this one, I just wanted to be done. Like, I miss my florals, I miss my pinks and my reds and all of those girly things that we usually associate with feminine cards. I missed all that, and I knew I couldn't add that to this cards, because then it will defeat the purpose of making masculine cards. So yeah, after the 10, I was done. I was like, I'm good, even though I had leftovers, and I will show that to you later, but I was done. So now we'll go back to the card making, and this one is card number 9. And I remembered I pulled out this border stamp set that I haven't even used, and so I'm going to try to use them. Now I have a Tim Holtz stamp thing, I forgot what it's called, but I got that at scrapbook.com, and I like the door that it has and all that, but for some reason my magnets were just not doing it for me. Like, the paper would peel up and then I would lose my spot. And so you will see me later that I will end up just using some washi just to put that paper on, keep that paper from not moving. And I also noticed that this one particular stamp, part of it, the top right of it, wasn't stamping very well. And I don't know why. I don't know if it's, I don't think it's my pressing, because I was, as you can see, I am like adding ink and pressing, and it wasn't going very well. And actually I was feeling lazy with this particular project, or but this particular card, that I wasn't even cleaning the stamp. I know, right? It's so shocking. Like, some people will probably say, why are you doing that to your stamps? But I didn't even clean it in between. As you can see, I'm just stamping away, and yeah, I was kind of lazy. But this was the moment that I noticed that it would move, and so I had a hard time trying to make sure that it was aligned, because I mean, that's the whole purpose of using this kind of tool, right? To make sure that if you restamp, it will not move. And so I decided to pull out some washi and just tape it there on the top so that it won't move, and I will just kind of move that as I go along. Let me see. The inks that I used to make my kind of DIY pattern paper on the back, or yeah, my background, were crushed olive, cracked pistachio, and peacock feathers. So I used a couple of greens and then some blue, a blue one, just to kind of give it a little bit of difference, and but to also stick with the masculine colors. And so I was getting really frustrated with this stamp. So finally I remember that, you know, when you have a stamp that's not working, you could sand off that part of it. And I think this is where I would pull my little emery board that, you know, you use for nails, and I'm going to try to kind of sand off part of that just to see if that makes a difference. And you know, it really didn't. So I think it's just a stamp. I think it's kind of a there's quality issues with this stamp, but you know, it's all right. I mean, I've had this for a while, so I'm okay with that. But I just had to make a note that next time I really have to remember that this one doesn't stamp very well. So I'm just going back and using some of the same colors that I use. I'm just using those 3 colors, and I'm going to kind of make a pattern out of that and create those, was it checkered type of look, and all over the card base, or the white paper, with these ink pads. So I'm using that washi again, and then I'm going again. I don't clean my stamps. I was so lazy. I didn't want to get my Lawn Fawn chamois wet, and because then that meant that I had to get up and I had to go to our downstairs bathroom and, you know, run it through water. I am so lazy. It's kind of embarrassing, but that's how it was. And so now that I'm done with that, I think I'm good with all of those ones that I created. Now, of course, I'm going to trim that off and make sure that that's a little bit smaller, so you don't kind of see all of the white space. And I do have some more white on there, but I will fix that, or I should say I will cover that up with another element on there. So that was my initial design, but it felt like there was something missing in the background. But first I'm going to kind of pick my sentiment, which one do I want to go for, and I end up going with a black one. And then I remembered that I had some more leftovers of this shiny paper. I was tossing between the silver or this bronze gold one, and I will end up with this bronze gold one, and I will use the Argyle embossing folder, and I thought that was a really cool one to use. So that's what I will be using here. And I will also use a scrap of a dry embossed paper sheet, and I will cut out a circle from it. The circle was, it's not a full circle, and that's totally fine because I am going to butt that up on the edge of the pattern, or the DIY pattern paper that I had created, just so that I can cover some of that white part that didn't stamp very well. And now I'm going to add that with some more glue dots, and then I'm going to add the sentiment with some fun foam. And so with my adhesives, as you can see, I was using various kinds of adhesive. I used some glue dots, just the regular kind. I also used some mini dots, especially with this with these strips of paper. And then I also use my double-sided paper, or double-sided adhesive rather, and I get my double-sided adhesive on Amazon. I have this one that I buy that's like a 6-pack for, I can't remember if it's like $5 or something like that, and it's a no-name brand, and so I use that one, and I like it. And so we go on to card number 10. So with this one, I pulled that silver paper that I had dried embossed and used the circle part of it. I'm going to use that to kind of make a peekaboo hole in the center of my card. I will trim that off so that you can see the dry embossed background that will be behind that. Now initially I thought that maybe I will make a shaker card for this particular one, but I was too lazy. Let's just put that out there. I was just feeling lazy. I just wanted to be over. I just wanted these cards to be done. And I know that sounds awful, right? Like, we shouldn't feel that way when we're doing something that we love, but I don't know, I was kind of at the end of it with these cards. I was ready to be done. So I didn't even want to do any shaker cards. I just wanted it to be done. In hindsight, I could have made this a shaker card because I was adding all sorts of foam elements on the back anyways, right? So anyways, that's what it was. So with this card, I really just wanted to use up that silver paper that I had embossed already, and then I wanted the peekaboo effect, and then I also wanted to kind of use the image as an inspiration for my sentiment. And I actually will not be using one of the heat embossed sentiment that I have already done. I'm actually going to do a different thing, and you will see that in a little bit. And now I have fun foam all over this background, and I'm just going to peel all that off. I did use some double-sided tape on the other side of it so that it will stick to that silver paper. And then I'm going to adhere that straight onto that dry embossed paper, and then that dry embossed paper will go onto the blue cardstock. Now here is where I put in the sentiment, and the sentiment is "You Rock." And I just pulled out some smaller letter stickers that I have. I believe this one's from Basic Gray, and I actually didn't have any more O's, and so I doctored some Q's and turned them into O's, and then that was it. And I really love how simple this is, or how it coordinates well with my image. I'm not very good with, like, figuring out a cheeky sentiment to go with images, but this one just worked well. And at first I thought, well, maybe I'll add some brads or add something else. But then at the end of the day, I thought that this simple card was good enough. It has some, texture to it because of the dry embossing, and it has some raised elements to it. So I was happy with that. And now I'm going to share with you what was left over from my kit. So of course I have all my tools, my stamps, my embossing powder. This is what's left over with my brads, and I'm actually just going to mix that up with a little container that I have with all of the rest of my small brads. And then I still have a lot of those dry embossed paper, and so with the sentiments. And here is all the papers that was left over, and this is another quick look at all of the cards that I created. Again, if you like these videos, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing. And if you have any questions, make sure that you leave it in the comment section below. Even though I struggled with these card sets, I am proud of the cards that I created, and I can't wait to send this to the men in my life, and I will catch you guys another day. Bye.